In the not-so-distant future, a massive dungeon just rips a hole right through Tokyo. Inside this new landmark is a whole other world, complete with a fire-breathing dragon, and it is absolutely crawling with all sorts of grotesque monsters ready for a meet and greet. But hey, it also holds priceless treasures and artifacts completely unknown to the surface world. So naturally, people started diving in, all of them dreaming of getting ridiculously rich. These rules are simple: the deeper you go, the better the loot and the bigger the danger. Exploring this place is basically a constant bloody dance with a very messy death, and sometimes you are the one who ends up paying the ultimate price for that gamble. A couple of adventurers are about to learn that lesson as they face their final moments, when suddenly a massive bolt of lightning just obliterates the monster from above. This blast leaves behind some rare crafting materials, much to the survivors' total confusion. And we meet our boy, the kid with the red scarf holding a lightning culverin cannon. He one-shotted the boss, coolly noting that the huge mana cost was totally worth it. The survivors are practically bowing to him, begging him to clean up the rest of the mobs too, to which he gives the most epic side-eye and asks why on earth he would do that. Leaving the poor knight absolutely speechless, his free ride just got cancelled. Our guy explains he was only there for the boss drops to help his little sister. Meanwhile, the remaining monsters start closing in on the now helpless adventurers. They plead for their lives as he rides off on the boss's corpse, but he is not interested, until a blue light surrounds his feet as he says, however, maybe there is a catch. This knight's face says it all as a monster's claw is about to redecorate his armor. But our boy casually chimes in, saying he is totally open to making a deal. Then he offers to sell them his ridiculously OP cannon for the right price, of course. We flash back a few months to him explaining his life philosophy. He does what he wants. Turns out, the dungeon is a real-life version of Japan's most popular MMO, Fantasia Online. This means all the players can use their in-game abilities, giving them a massive edge. And since real-world guns are basically useless, gamers became the new top-tier explorers. Our guy's whole deal seems to revolve around this mysterious, glowing cube item, and we finally get a name: Salma Sayatome, a level 1 crafter. Instead of fighting, he spent all his time obsessing over his production skills in a workshop. This internet forums are ruthless, calling the crafter class the absolute worst job in the game. But Salma could not care less about the meta. He has got his own grind to focus on. For him, combat is just a side quest. The main story is mastering his craft with a crazy grin. He finishes a sword and admires his work with the smug satisfaction of a master artist. Just then, a call comes in from someone named Shika, his little sister. His whole demeanor shatters when he hears her desperately begging for his help. We learn Shika is a strong explorer who has literally never asked for anything before, which is why Salma is now sprinting through the dungeon in a full-blown panic. He finally reaches a sealed door just as a weapon flies out, screaming her name. But the room is completely empty, his calls for Shika just echoing in the silence. His panic instantly vanishes as he spots his sister Shika in the room. But she is not exactly herself. She's been turned into a tiny blue butterfly-winged monster. This development is so bizarre it makes a couple of random adventurers in the hall completely lose it. Shika explains she blacked out while exploring and woke up like this, getting attacked by everyone. In his hand, the tiny fairy-like Shika looks up at him, completely helpless and confused. Time for the crafter class to shine as Salma activates his analysis skill on her. His unique skill is normally used for scanning items to learn their crafting recipes, but it can also scan a player's status effect to find a cure, a long shot for this monsterification. At first, his brilliant plan faceplants, returning nothing but a screen full of static noise. Just as he is about to give up, one single readable line of text cuts through the glitchy mess. It reveals the curse is an unnamed monsterification, and the only cure is the Philosopher's Stone. Hearing this, Shika gets totally hyped, since that stone is a legendary, all-powerful item. Salma immediately brings her back to reality. No one has ever actually found one in this dungeon. That is because the recipe requires a shopping list of S-tier, impossible-to-find ingredients. With no way to farm them, Salma realizes they will have to buy the materials, but the cost will be huge. And by huge, we mean a grand total of 100 million gold, an absolutely staggering amount. Feeling completely defeated, Salma calls himself pathetic for being useless without the materials. But Shika flies right in his face, insisting his crafter skill is the only reason she has any hope at all. To really drive the point home, she gives him a tiny, encouraging head bonk on the chin. Her words get through, and with a small smile, he thanks her, his resolve now hardened. With his resolve restored, Salma declares they are going all in on buying the materials. And with a slightly unhinged grin, he invites Shika to help with the fundraising. She is totally on board, landing in his hand with a determined little pose, until the reality of their 100 million gold problem hits her like a ton of bricks. Salma's plan is simple if a little insane. They are just gonna get rich in the dungeon. Their grand quest for cash begins on the first floor, a basic mining area. He immediately sizes up the competition, dismissing them as total dungeon-crawling newbies. Shika watches him use his cube and asks what he just whipped up. He reveals a small mining bomb for some quick cash, but some nearby adventurers start laughing. A new party approaches, openly mocking him for choosing the trash crafter class. Their leader, a smug wizard named Ignis, assumes Salma is a complete beginner. Salma just gives him the most unimpressed stare imaginable while Shika looks ready to throw hands. These guys are acting like they have found an endangered species, cackling about seeing a real-life crafter. Ignoring them, he just tells Shika to grab the ore so they can bounce, totally used to the hate. But Shika is absolutely not letting this slide, flying right up to call them out. This wizard's crew just finds this hilarious, wondering if she is his little pet monster. Getting annoyed, the wizard decides to just swat the pest out of the air with his wand, until his arm is stopped dead in its tracks by a very firm hand. Salma effortlessly catches the blow, shocking the wizard with his impossible strength. His eyes turn deadly serious as he warns the terrified wizard that touching his sister is a line you do not cross. Salma just tells them to back off because they are busy, completely unfazed by the threat. This wizard is absolutely losing his mind, furious that a mere crafter would dare disrespect him. So naturally, he decides to go full-on villain monologue, screaming that Salma will pay with his life. Ignis unleashes a massive explosion spell, a ridiculously overpowered attack for this situation. He is already gloating about his victory, saying it serves Salma right for looking down on him. But when the smoke clears, our boy is standing there untouched, surrounded by a swirling vortex of water. This wizard's brain just short-circuits, completely unable to process how his fire spell just fizzled out. Turns out, Salma just used two basic items, a small mining bomb and a bottle of drinking water. With his cube, he instantly combined them on the spot to create a brand new water bomb. He is pretty pleased with himself for the quick thinking, while Sheikah peeks out from his scarf. Ignis immediately starts screaming that he is a liar, insisting a low-tier item could not possibly block his magic. Convinced he is a fraud, the wizard activates his own analyze skill to expose Salma's real stats. This scan locks onto Salma, and the wizard waits for the data to confirm his genius theory. And what he sees leaves his entire party frozen in absolute jaw-dropping terror. Because the scan does not show a low-level newbie, it shows a player at level 999. Salma just gives them the most terrifyingly smug grin and says, "See, I am just a crafter." This information completely shatters the wizard's worldview, who can only stammer about the impossible level. Our boy calmly explains that the level cap is more of a suggestion for him and his items are the real deal. It is revealed that his crafted items get enhanced by his level, turning that into a water bomb plus 99. This wizard's goons are now sweating bullets, realizing they just tried to mug a literal god. Ignis is just refusing to process this, his entire ego short-circuiting at the thought of losing. In a fit of pure rage, he starts casting another ridiculously huge spell, refusing to let it happen. He goes full villain mode, screaming for Salma to die as he unleashes a massive earthbreak attack. This entire floor just explodes upwards, sending giant chunks of rock flying everywhere. This overkill attack rips a massive hole in the ground, sending Salma plummeting into the abyss below. After landing, Salma just looks up at the wizard, probably wondering if this guy has any chill whatsoever. Up above, Ignis is cackling like a madman, boasting that he has mastered all 4 elements of magic. He then summons some kind of shadowy creature, demanding that the crafter beg for his life. This monster looms over our boy as Ignis offers to spare him if he gets on his knees, classic villain stuff. But Salma just points out that the genius wizard just blasted a hole into the asterisk lower floors of the dungeon. And right on cue, a massive angry-looking dragon emerges from the new hole, drawn by the noise. This dragon wastes no time, immediately charging up a giant fireball in its jaws. It then unleashes a massive stream of fire right at the wizard and his now panicking friends. Ignis can only scream in absolute terror as his own stupidity comes back to bite him, literally. One of his party members gets roasted and falls screaming into the chasm, so much for teamwork. Salma, on the other hand, just casually whips up a massive magic shield to block the flames. Sheikah is freaking out, but Salma just deadpans that this is a really horrible way to start their fundraising. Facing the beast, he asks Sheikah to use her scout skill to find a weakness since he cannot fight it directly. He just needs her to find a weak point while he prepares to deal with another incoming fire blast. Sheikah flies into action, her analysis skill colliding with the dragon's fiery breath. Sheikah immediately goes into scout mode, activating her skill to pinpoint the dragon's weak spot. Her analysis lights up the massive beast, revealing multiple potential targets for them to hit. After a quick scan, she locks onto the perfect vulnerability, the base of its tail. Salma gets the signal and instantly slaps a mining bomb right on the glowing bulls. This bomb goes off with a tiny pop, which basically just tickles the dragon and makes it very, very angry. Ignis's former goons are now having a full-blown panic attack, realizing their plan did absolutely nothing. But Salma is not after damage, he is farming for a rare item that only drops from a critical hit. He whips out his cube again, announcing he is crafting an iron lance and a much larger bomb. Then he throws in the rare scale he just got, going for a triple craft with a terrifyingly giddy look on his face. A massive flash of light erupts from his hands, signaling the completion of his insane project, and he emerges holding a draconic pile bunker, which is a polite term for a dragon-eluding cannon. This dragon charges forward, completely unaware it is about to have a very, very bad day. Salma plants his feet, aiming the ridiculously oversized weapon right at the beast's chest. With a chillingly calm grin, he informs the dragon that its subscription to life has officially expired. A single, massive shell casing clatters to the ground as the weapon unleashes its payload. This blast punches a clean hole straight through the monster, which probably was not on its schedule. This shot is so ridiculously powerful it sends the massive beast flying backwards across the cavern. Ignis's old party members are now Salma's biggest fans, cheering for him like they were friends all along. After the dust settles, our boy casually glances over at the massive chasm from before. He spots Ignis dangling for dear life and sarcastically asks why the master wizard is not saving himself. Absolute savagery. Ignis is a total mess, admitting he burned all his mana, and Salma just calls him an idiot for it. Offering a rescue, Salma says it will not be free. First, Ignis has to sincerely apologize to Sheikah. This wizard immediately starts screaming the most dramatic, tear-filled apology in dungeon history, but Salma's not done, adding that leaving Ignis to die is just bad for business. With a truly terrifying grin, he demands every single coin the wizard has on him. After the shakedown, Ignis runs for the hills as Salma cheerfully thanks him for his patronage. Once they are finally alone, our boy leans against the wall, his massive cannon resting beside him. This adrenaline wears off and he suddenly collapses, completely exhausted from the fight. He explains that crafters are not built for combat, just as Ignis' old party members approach. These two guys, now his biggest fans, tell him they were watching the whole thing and are seriously impressed. Then they ask if he'd be willing to sell them that absolutely insane dragon-deleting weapon. They offer a staggering 300,000 gold, which makes Sheikah immediately start screaming, "Sell it." Salma is a little confused by the huge offer since he figures he could just farm another one. He has to explain that a plus 99 enhanced item is not a random drop you can just find. This adventurers point out that normal players do not risk their lives grinding for impossible items. And right then, a light bulb goes off in Salma's head as he realizes something huge. With a sly, calculating grin, he accepts their deal, a new plan clearly forming in his mind. This shakedown and the sale net them a nice chunk of change, but they are still over 99 million short. Back in town, Sheikah is absolutely buzzing, celebrating their two unexpected jackpots. She asks him what he was thinking about, and Salma just smiles, saying he has come up with a good idea. Salma's new idea makes Sheikah absolutely lose her mind. He wants to stop dungeon crawling for money. She is in full-on panic mode, reminding him they almost died to a single dragon and cannot handle the lower floors. But he just calmly holds up a freshly crafted glowing sword, cutting off her downward spiral. With a wicked grin, he reminds her they have the ultimate cheat code, his crafting skill. This immediately snaps her out of it as the gears in her head finally start turning. She realizes that unlike in their old game, crafted items here are actually valuable, so they can just sell their creations. His plan is to find cheap materials and turn them into high-profit gear, basically printing money. When Sheikah questions if that is even possible, Salma just confidently says they will find a way. He leads her to a massive auction house, declaring it the perfect place for their new business venture. Our boy pushes open the massive doors, ready to make some serious cash. With a triumphant pose, he announces this is the place where fortunes are made and lost. A brilliant golden light pours out from inside, signaling the insane wealth within. They step into the legendary auction, where a high-stakes bidding war is already underway. Prices for rare items are soaring, with bids climbing into the tens of thousands in seconds. Sheikah is totally starstruck by the spectacle, while Salma just crosses his arms looking smug. An auctioneer slams his gavel as a pair of earrings sells for an insane 90,000 gold. Salma just smirks, telling her to get ready because the main event is about to begin. Next on the block is a dark Aegis shield, with the bidding starting at a cool 100,000. This price immediately explodes, shooting past 400,000 as the crowd goes absolutely wild. Someone with Paddle 49 throws down a bid for 450,000 and the tension just keeps climbing. A very fancy lady in the audience casually throws down a winning bid of 550,000 gold. This auctioneer slams his gavel, officially selling the Dark Aegis for over 500,000. With a truly diabolical grin, Salma tells Sheikah that Shield is their new business venture. He explains that if people are willing to pay that much, it is a market just begging to be exploited. His master plan is to mass-produce the shield and sell it to all the salty rich guys who lost the bid. Salma is already getting giddy just thinking about the absolute mountain of cash they are about to make. To craft it, they need 3 rare materials, including something called Dark Adamantite and Fire Dragon Blood. Conveniently, they already have the dragon's blood, thanks to that little disagreement from earlier. So to get the last piece, they decided to head down to the second floor of the labyrinth. But Salma admits that plan hit a snag when he realized he was running low on mana. He then flashes back to offering one of his custom-crafted mana potions to a struggling adventurer. With a face that screams loan shark, he offers it for 2,000 gold, much to the guy's fury. His logic was simple: if there is an opportunity to make a quick buck off desperate people, you take it. And it seems he got a little carried away, setting up a whole black market for dungeon crawling supplies. Back in the present, an adventurer complains about the price, but Salma just calls it fair market value. He's peddling some anti-trap charm for 3,000 gold, which is a total steal, I am sure. When the guy tries to haggle, Salma just starts raising the price. This is capitalism at its finest. But in the middle of his glorious shakedown, Sheikah suddenly senses that something is very wrong. She screams his name in warning as Salma gets a classic "oh crap" look on his face. And right on cue, a pack of flaming hellhounds comes charging down the corridor to crash the party. Salma and his would-be customer are screaming their heads off as the monsters charge in. Our boy immediately regrets getting lost in the hustle, now running for his life from the angry hounds. These flaming hellhounds are relentless, staying right on their heels in the narrow corridor. When Sheikah suggests fighting, he shouts that there are too many and she could get caught in the crossfire. Their frantic escape leads them straight into a solid brick wall, a classic dead end. But Salma just turns with a diabolical grin, whipping out his crafting cube like it is no big deal. In a flash, he crafts a ridiculously oversized blast hammer, ready for some serious crowd control. He roars that this narrow hallway is the perfect kill box to wipe them all out in one go. With a massive swing, he unleashes a tidal wave of blue energy right into the charging pack. This attack just obliterates the hellhounds, sending them flying down the corridor in a blue streak. After the dust settles, he checks on Sheikah, who casually says she was fine perched on his shoulder. He notes the fight took too long, but as he steps forward, the floor beneath him starts to crack. And just like that, the ground completely shatters, sending him plummeting into the darkness below. His scream echoes through the chasm as he falls, which is becoming a real habit for this guy. He lands in a painful-looking heap at the bottom of a massive pit, lit by a single shaft of light. Looking up at the hole he just made, he admits he really screwed up this time. Then it hits him, he just pulled the exact same boneheaded move as Ignis, the guy he just called an idiot. A moment later, Sheikah comes flying down the chasm, calling out his name in a panic. She lands on him, freaking out, but he just thanks the game's HP system for keeping him in one piece. Now in total darkness, Sheikah asks where they are, so Salma pulls out his cube to craft some light. He instantly crafts a glowing lantern because falling into a dark pit is getting old fast. Holding it high, Salma is ready to see whatever demons or snakes are lurking in the shadows. This light reveals a massive high-tech chamber with glowing blue tubes, definitely not a normal cave. He immediately recognizes the aesthetic, guessing it is the ruins of an ancient civilization from their old game. A sudden sound echoes from deeper within the ruins, drawing their attention forward. Sheikah suddenly spots something in the distance and screams for Salma to look. His eyes go wide in total disbelief at the sight before him. It is a massive, deactivated golem, which he identifies as a classic raid boss monster. But instead of fear, Salma gets a terrifyingly greedy grin, absolutely thrilled by this discovery. He even recognizes the specific model as a Grand Guignol Eve, an especially dangerous variant. While Sheikah is understandably panicking, our boy is already lost in thought, calculating his next move. He tells her to stay put while he goes to check it out because that always ends well. That loot goblin's smile is back, knowing these things drop incredibly valuable materials. Sheikah screams that it is dangerous as he climbs right onto the golem's shoulder, telling her to relax. From his new perch, he smugly confirms the machine is completely shut down and harmless. And right on cue, its massive eye flares to life, catching him completely off guard. Whoops. This golem immediately throws him off its shoulder as he yells for Sheikah to get back. A massive cloud of green energy erupts from the machine as it fully activates. Salma just stares, stunned, while Sheikah peeks from behind a wall, absolutely terrified. Inside the golem's glowing core, the silhouette of a mysterious woman suddenly appears. This woman from the core floats there, a full-on android with glowing green energy. And then suddenly we are back in town under a bright sunny sky, where the same android, now in a maid outfit, is complaining about dust bunnies. She passive-aggressively asks if her new master ever bothers to clean up after himself. This former raid boss is now taking her new housekeeping duties incredibly seriously. With a deadpan look, she calls Salma a high-maintenance master for being such a slob, but then adds that serving him is all the more rewarding, which just confuses him more. Back in the present, Salma is having a full-blown meltdown, wondering how his life got this weird. This story flashes back to the moment the android emerged from the golem's core. After the battle, she was just lying there, seemingly inert on the ground. It turns out the golem was just an outer shell for its real core, a human-sized automata. An automata so powerful it makes the dragon they fought look like a total pushover. As she boots up, her systems scan Salma, identifying him as a level 999 crafter. Her glowing green eye locks onto him with a sudden, intense focus, and she immediately registers him as her new master, leaving Salma completely speechless. He explains that she somehow lost all her boss battle memories and just imprinted on him. After trying and failing to get her to leave, he just gave up and brought her home. Now she is just tidying up his messy room, judging him silently for his lifestyle choices. Sheikah and the new maid are already bonding over his slobbish habits, much to his fury. She introduces herself as Eve, as Salma yells this is just as crazy as Sheikah's monster form. Salma tells his new raid boss maid to just stick to chores while they go hunt for materials. Eve just gives him a deadpan stare, her silence screaming, "You are a child." Then she snaps into a perfect bow, wishing him good fortune, which freaks Salma out completely. As they head into the labyrinth, he is still trying to figure out why a superweapon wants to be a housekeeper. He chalks it up to some hidden lore from the game finally coming into play. Salma explains that the Grand Guignol series were ancient mechanical beings with a deep backstory. Apparently, Eve was once a handmaiden to a princess, so her memory wipe just reset her to default settings. Deciding to table the "my maid is a WMD" issue, he tries to focus on the mission. But just as he is thinking about the Dark Aegis materials, he notices they are not alone. Another party of adventurers is standing just up ahead in the corridor. A paladin named Oliver seems to be the leader of this particular crew. Oliver recognizes Salma immediately, looking surprised to see him actually in the labyrinth. One of his party members asks who Salma is and gets told he is a weirdo with a useless job. Salma is offended by the useless part, but the guy just points out he did not deny being weird. Oliver quickly shuts his teammate down, warning him not to underestimate Salma. He knows that with Salma's high base stats, picking a fight would be a very bad idea. This little witch in their party then cheerfully asks if Oliver and Salma are friends. They both deny it in perfect unison, insisting they are just acquaintances, which is not suspicious at all. To change the subject, Oliver asks where Salma's sister is since she is usually with him. Salma just sweats, trying to figure out how to explain she is now a tiny fairy on his shoulder. Salma tries to explain that the tiny fairy is his sister, but Oliver's crew is not buying it for a second. One guy even suggests he just got a pet monster, which is a pretty wild accusation to throw around. Oliver just brushes him off, saying he is busy and cannot help with this particular brand of crazy. But he does remember Salma's insane goal of earning 100 million gold to save her. And he is genuinely amazed our boy is so devoted, especially since they are not even related by blood. Salma just gives a knowing smile, saying it is the most natural thing in the world to him, calling her a sister he is proud of, while the party's witch smothers a very distressed-looking Sheikah. This triggers a flashback to a rainy day at his parents' grave after they died in an accident, leaving him completely alone in the world with absolutely no one to turn to, until a kind hand reached out to him in his darkest moment, and we see a young, crying Salma looking up with a glimmer of hope. This people who saved him were the Sayatome couple holding an umbrella over him. As friends of his parents, they took him into their home without a second thought, where he met their daughter for the first time, a little girl named Sheikah peeking around a corner. He explains that even though she was shy, she accepted him as if he were her real brother, making her not just his sister but the daughter of the people who gave him a new life. Back in the present, his resolve is stronger than ever. He will do whatever it takes to save her. While he is lost in thought, Sheikah zips around the crystal cave doing some recon, and she suddenly shouts in triumph, holding up a massive chunk of dark adamantite. Salma happily takes the crystal, praising her for being such an excellent scout. Salma clutches the crystal, his eyes burning with resolve to turn Sheikah back to normal. And she is just a blushing, happy mess, completely moved by his big brother speech. She asks if their current haul is enough, but he needs at least double for mass production. Just as he suggests going deeper, they hear a faint cry for help from the shadows ahead. His eyes go wide in recognition. It is one of the adventurers from Oliver's party. This guy is completely incapacitated, face down on the cavern floor and clearly in agony. While Sheikah freaks out, Salma kneels down, instantly diagnosing a nasty status ailment. He immediately activates his analyze skill, a holographic interface scanning the down man. This plan is to reverse engineer the cure to identify whatever monster did this to him, but the results of the scan leave him absolutely floored. This is not good at all. This culprit was a Venom Drake, a mutant variant that has no business being on this floor. Meanwhile, back at Salma's place, the sun shines into his quiet, empty room. This camera pans up from the window to a tall tower overlooking the entire town, and who is standing guard on the rooftop. Eve, the raid boss maid, on patrol. With a steely gaze, she declares she must fulfill her duty, which probably is not dusting. Back in the cave, Salma explains that a normal Venom Drake is tough but manageable. This mutant variants, however, are a whole other league of terrifying boss monster. Sheikah asks what makes them so bad, and he confirms it is way more than just high stats. A variant's venom is completely immune to normal antidotes and healing magic. Sheikah asks what they can do, but Salma admits he cannot craft an anti-serum without special materials. Sheikah offers a potion to help the downed adventurer, but Salma knows it is way too late for that. His expression hardens. They have no choice but to go down there and follow Oliver's party. This only route deeper is the same one the other team took, leading them right into the danger zone. He sends Sheikah ahead to scout the pit, telling her not to overdo it, which always works out. Determined to prove her worth, she zips down into the darkness, using her fairy speed for recon, and what she finds down there immediately makes her regret that whole being useful thing. This entire lower cavern is swirling with a thick, ominous purple miasma, a seriously bad sign. Flying back up, she reports that Oliver's crew is completely gone, vanished without a trace. Salma just shrugs it off, confident a high-level paladin can handle a little poison gas, but he quickly gets serious, reminding her that fighting a variant monster is a suicide mission. Sheikah suggests bailing and finding materials elsewhere, but our boy is sticking to the plan. He explains that the other gathering spots are basically lava-filled hellscapes, so this is their safest option. Their best shot is to sneak around and grab the adamantite while staying out of the Drake's sight. When Sheikah worries about the miasma, he just pats her on the head with a smug "do not worry" smile. His brilliant plan involves casually yoinking some sparkling dust right off of a very confused Sheikah. She absolutely freaks out as he reveals a vial of her fairy dust, a key ingredient for status cures. While she protests him stealing her dust, Salma is already in crafting mode, combining it with a crystal. And just like that, he whips up a brand new scarf of protection, looking way too proud of himself. This new gear will not stop the venom, but it is just enough to block the miasma so they can explore. Peering into the toxic fog, Salma admits this poisonous atmosphere is seriously intense. Salma puts Sheikah on navigation duty, and she is absolutely ready for the responsibility. Just then, a body goes flying through the air and smacks hard against the cavern wall. It is Oliver, sliding to a stop with his shield, looking like he just got absolutely trucked. Towering over him is the Venom Drake, a horrifying purple monstrosity ready to finish the job. This paladin struggles to hold his ground, his shield barely withstanding the creature's assault. His first thought is not "I am dying," but "oh no, Salma saw me looking pathetic," a man of priorities. After a brief moment of intense self-loathing, he swallows his pride and begs for help. Oliver explains the only cure for his friends is an anti-serum made from the Drake's own venom glands. Salma is not impressed, pointing out that a high-level party should have their own curebot. Turns out the rest of Oliver's team is already down, completely incapacitated by the poison. Desperate, he offers any reward, pleading with Salma to save his teammates from certain death. Our boy just gives this incredibly smug grin, like his favorite holiday just came early. With the promise of payment, Salma whips out a crafting cube, suddenly very interested in teamwork. Oliver is just so relieved he could cry, shouting his thanks as Salma gets to work. A bright light erupts from the cube, enchanting the paladin's gear with a powerful buff. Now Oliver's back on his feet, ready for round 2 against the giant poison lizard. This Venom Drake just glares, its compound eye glowing with pure, unadulterated rage. It immediately unleashes a torrent of concentrated purple death right at the paladin, but Oliver summons a massive energy shield, a last-ditch defensive skill to block the attack. and the venom blast slams into the glowing barrier with catastrophic force. Oliver leaps into the air fully buffed and ready to bring the righteous fury down. He smashes his shield right into the Venom Drake's ugly mug, a solid opening move. But just as the fight gets going, Salma lobs a weird canister right into the mix. Our boy flashes a grin, revealing his contribution is a good old-fashioned flashbang. A blinding light engulfs the cavern, completely stunning the massive poison lizard. Unfortunately, it also blinds Oliver, who is now screaming his lungs out. Great teamwork, guys. With everyone disoriented, Salma zips in and carves off a piece of the Drake's hide. Oliver shouts that he will hold it off, trusting Salma to make the cure, totally unaware he is talking to empty air. His heroic declaration is cut short as the Drake's tail comes whipping down from above, and it absolutely flattens the poor paladin, sending him crashing to the ground. This monster's glowing red eye then swivels, locking onto a new target with pure hatred. Its gaze lands squarely on Salma, who is just trying to do some arts and crafts in a corner. He realizes the flashbang made him the #1 threat, now desperately trying to craft a binding spell. This Drake does not wait, unleashing a massive beam of concentrated venom right at him. With the attack seconds from impact, Salma is completely defenseless, his crafting incomplete. Just as he is about to get vaporized, a massive bolt of lightning descends from the cavern ceiling. It slams directly into the Venom Drake's head with apocalyptic force, stopping the attack cold. Salma and Sheikah just stare, completely baffled by their sudden electrifying rescue. Through the smoke, a familiar silhouette appears, her glowing eyes promising absolute destruction. And it is Eve, the housekeeper, standing over the monster like she's about to take out the trash. Salma's brain short-circuits, wondering if his maid just reverted to her final boss factory settings. With those glowing green eyes, he knows they are completely outmatched against a full-on raid boss. She winds up for a strike, and he is thinking even without armor she is still a killer robot. But instead of a death blow, she just grabs his scarf. Eve then presents him with a neatly folded red garment, leaving our boy utterly baffled. Turns out she just came to deliver something he forgot, with the most serious face imaginable. He stammers out a thank you, and she just says it is all part of a maid's duty, delivery service included. Our boy's face just melts with pure unadulterated relief. He is laughing his head off, so glad she did not come here to murder them all. Eve explains she saw his clothes were torn and was planning to fix them for him later. She then asks her high-maintenance master and little sister to rely on her more, which is adorable. Right on cue, the Venom Drake roars, rudely interrupting this wholesome family moment. Eve immediately steps forward, telling Salma to just leave this oversized lizard to her, because apparently, forced elimination of intruders is also on the list of official maid duties. This Drake's eye glows with rage, not a fan of being tidied up like a common dust bunny. It looms over the tiny maid, ready to unleash a world of hurt, but she does not even flinch. A close-up on its glowing eye shows it is powering up a seriously nasty attack, and it fires a massive beam of concentrated purple poison right at her. While Sheikah's panicking about the poison, Salma just calmly tells her not to worry, because Eve just face-tanks the entire blast, revealing that poison does not work on automata. What a flex. Eve's eyes narrow with cold, robotic fury. Time to clean house. She casually raises a hand, charging up an attack that looks way too big for her body. Then she is a blur, zipping right past the monster's head before it can even react, unleashing a rapid-fire barrage of light-infused punches directly into its face. This Drake roars, trying to swat her out of the air like a ridiculously overpowered fly. But she just dodges the massive claw, looking completely unbothered by the whole near-death thing. From the sidelines, Oliver screams that he will not let her fight alone, a truly inspiring comeback. He joins the fray with a shield bash, creating a distraction while Eve continues her assault. Meanwhile, Sheikah activates her analysis skill, literally framing up the monster's weak spot. And she helpfully points out its weak point is the back of the head. Shocking, I know. Salma just deadpans as Sheikah confirms their damage output is basically a tickle. Turns out a paladin is a tank and a maid's fists are not exactly boss killers. Our boy weighs his options, deciding that healing Oliver's useless friends is a waste of time. So he whips out his crafting cube, a new, much better plan forming in his head. He shouts at Oliver to hand over all his items, which understandably confuses the paladin. Salma declares he is crafting a custom weapon, and a desperate Oliver just agrees to it. With a smug grin, Salma says they will win because he has a reliable maid. What a confidence boost. His crafting cube goes into overdrive, glowing with immense power as it processes the materials. In seconds, he is done, tossing the newly forged weapon over to Eve. She catches the glowing gauntlet, her expression promising nothing but pain for the overgrown lizard. Eve equips the new gear, which turns out to be a massive lightning boot, and she immediately launches herself forward, delivering a devastating kick right at the Drake. This blow connects with a blinding flash, sending the monster reeling in absolute agony. This custom-made lightning-heavy greave is crackling with some serious boss-killing energy. With a look of cold, robotic precision, she channels all that power into the strike. A massive pillar of light erupts from the point of impact, completely overwhelming the beast. Landing on its back, she locks onto the weak point Sheikah found earlier. Then she unleashes a final, concentrated blast that pierces straight through the monster's hide. As the Drake's body begins to shatter, Eve just gracefully leaps away from the explosion. She lands without a scratch in the middle of a newly formed crater, just another Tuesday for her. Holding up the Venom Drake's jewel, she calmly announces that the mission is complete. Oliver is just speechless, while Salma smugly reminds him that he totally called this victory. With the antidote crafted, Oliver's party is back on their feet and he offers his sincere thanks. Salma hands over the last vial, telling him to go cure the rest of his useless teammates. As the Paladin's crew celebrates not dying, our boy just gives them a casual wave goodbye. Now that they are alone, Eve turns to Salma with a simple, respectful master. She thanks him for trusting her, a maid with a mysterious past, in such a critical fight. Our boy just brushes it off, claiming it was a purely logical choice for maximum damage. Shika immediately calls him out for being a tsundere, earning a flustered "shut up" from Salma. Blushing furiously, he declares that from now on, the three of them are a team aiming to make bank. Eve then snaps at him, saying if he does not like her help, he can find a new master. But her expression immediately softens into a gentle smile, telling him to just leave it to her. A post-mission report shows the huge profits they raked in from the rescue and item sales. Plus, they scored some top-tier crafting materials, getting them closer to their financial goal. And it is official, a system notification confirms that Eve, the combat maid, has joined the party. Elsewhere, some corporate stooge reports that Salma is about to mass-produce the Dark Aegis shield. This woman he is reporting to seems surprised, admitting she underestimated the mere crafter. Sitting on her throne, this new villain decides she will have to personally teach Salma his place. A few days later, business is booming at Salma's workshop, with customers shouting in disbelief. Two guys are absolutely freaking out over a plus 99 enhanced Dark Aegis shield he is selling. They are so impressed they immediately hand over a giant sack of gold without a second thought. When they ask how he made it, Salma just flashes a smug grin and calls it a trade secret. He offers to find them more gear, and they eagerly ask him to track down a rare weapon. In his head, Salma gloats about his plan to craft 5 shields from the Drake's materials. His brilliant strategy involves selling them directly to the rich explorers who lost at the auction. This move not only avoids auction fees, but also lets him scout for new business opportunities. He then excitedly reveals he also crafted a special rare weapon on the side. It is the Great Bow of Malice, a custom piece made from the Venom Drake's own core. His current clients cannot afford it, so he offers to introduce them to other interested buyers. This plan is to hit up a gathering of Hunter-class explorers tomorrow where wallets will be wide open. Our boy smoothly assures his new clients he will find their rare weapons, playing the part perfectly. Later, as he is walking through town, a familiar voice calls out his name. Shika zips up to him, eagerly asking how the sales went, and he just smirks. He proudly shows off the 750,000 gold he made from just 2 shields, already planning his next million. Even Eve, carrying a ridiculously oversized pack, gives a stoic "well done, master." With the great bow and other loot, she calculates they are on track to hit 3 million gold soon. But then she drops the math bomb. Their actual goal is 100 million, making their current stash a measly 3%. Salma just flashes a confident grin, telling her he has already thought of the next move. He's keeping the details under wraps for now, much to Eve's very obvious pouty-faced curiosity. For now, the plan is to sell this insane bow to get the capital for his next big scheme. So they head to a massive hunter's gathering, a bustling market built inside a giant tree. He sets up a stall with all the standard hunter essentials to lure in potential customers. Then our boy goes into full-on salesman mode, welcoming the crowd to check out his wares. With a wicked grin, he announces it is time to reveal the featured item. He dramatically presents the Great Bow of Malice, and the crowd of hunters absolutely loses their minds. Salma immediately gets in one guy's face, trying to close the deal with some high-pressure tactics. But the hunter just stammers, looking completely terrified for some reason. As the potential buyer backs away, Salma realizes something is definitely wrong here. Other hunters in the crowd start murmuring that it is suspicious no one is buying even basic arrows. They realize it is not about the price or lack of interest, something else is preventing them from making a purchase. Salma realizes the crowd is acting like buying from him comes with a death sentence. And right on cue, some loudmouth in green starts shouting at him, clearly looking for a fight. This high-rank hunter, Hayato, demands to know who gave him permission to sell in his territory. Our boy just gives him the most unimpressed stare in history, not even dignifying it with a word. Getting right in his face, Hayato tries his best tough guy act, asking who the hell he is. Salma just coolly introduces himself as a crafter, basically daring the guy to make something of it. Of course, Hayato and his goons just laugh their heads off, calling crafters useless jacks of all trades. This sheer unoriginal disrespect is so familiar that Salma's just like, ah, this old routine. This wannabe mob boss then pressures the crowd, saying they'd rather buy his superior weapons, right? With Shika on his finger, Salma finally gets it. This dude is just a bully running a protection racket. Shika explains that Hayato is probably the one crafting all the local gear, then roasts his taste in pets. Her self-deprecating insult is so out of left field that Salma is just completely stunned. Eve then steps up, asking which items are Salma's before trashing everything on display as utter garbage. Hayato's eye twitches, clearly not a fan of having his life's work insulted by a maid. With a wicked grin, Salma proposes they settle this with a duel by the hunter's code. Hayato eagerly agrees, saying if he wins, Salma is banned forever, but our boy just flat out says no. He calls the guy a coward for only wanting to fight when there is absolutely zero risk on his end. Salma lays down the law if he has to accept permanent exile for losing, then Hayato does too. A blade is drawn, sealing the challenge with a sharp whoosh through the air. Backed into a corner by his own pride, Hayato furiously agrees to the terms, ready to throw down. Hayato raises the stakes, promising a brutal beatdown on top of the duel's original terms. His rules are simple. They craft bows on the spot, and the first to land a hit wins. Totally fair, right? He fires his arrow while gloating about class difference, only for it to get stopped by a flash of light. His brain just short-circuits as his shot is casually blocked by an invisible force. Total system error. Salma just calmly apologizes for the interruption, a massive swirl of magic dissipating around him. Then he reveals his own creation, the Brahmastra, a divine bow with perfect homing capabilities. Overkill is an understatement. Our boy immediately complains to the crowd about wasting rare materials, already calculating his replacement costs. A loud crash echoes through the forest as Hayato is sent flying into the trees with a very satisfying thud. Pinned to the ground by a volley of arrows, the sore loser swears he will get his revenge for the humiliation. So he activates his beast call skill, summoning some backup because he cannot win on his own. Salma immediately senses the shift in the air, turning to see what fresh hell is coming their way. From the woods emerge a whole pack of glowing-eyed monsters, and they do not look friendly at all. This entire hunter gathering looks up in horror as a swarm of beasts descends from the sky. Absolute chaos breaks out as the monsters start tearing through the crowd, who are now running for their lives. Eve, of course, leaps into action, effortlessly blasting a monster to protect the panicking hunters. She notes that the attack is way too coordinated, asking Salma what is really going on here, and the camera pans to Hayato's smug face, confirming he is the psycho behind this whole mess. Salma dismisses the idea that this is just petty revenge, guessing it is actually a diversion for something else. He puts himself in the villain's shoes, realizing Hayato's real prize must be. And in a flash of insight, Salma figures out the true, sinister goal behind the attack. Salma instantly gets it, the monsters are just a distraction and he is the real target. A whole volley of magical arrows comes screaming down right at him. Pinned to the ground, he realizes the shooter is way too far for a normal counterattack. Deciding to just go for it, he fires off a spread of his own magic arrows, hoping they will reach. His shots curve through the air, perfectly intercepting the incoming volley, a crafter's precision. Hayato's jaw just drops, completely baffled that his perfect ambush got shut down. Up on his perch, the bully watches Salma's homing arrows lock onto his position. He tries to fire back, but it is way too late, the counterattack is already on him. Still gloating, he mocks Salma for not understanding basic range penalties, what an amateur. Then he reveals his super special job skill that ignores distance, because of course he has one. But Salma's arrow slams right into him anyway, proving skills do not fix being bad at aiming. He looks down and realizes it is not a normal arrow, it has got a little present strapped to it. His eye widens in pure terror as he sees the fuse burning down, and a massive explosion sends him flying, complete with a very satisfying scream. As he is falling, he spots even more projectiles, thinking his HP can totally tank a bomb. Turns out they are all bombs, and he gets caught in a beautiful chain reaction of explosions. Salma just watches the smoke rise, completely unfazed by his own brand of overkill. With a smug grin, he asks if the guy really expected a fair fight. What a concept. This other hunters immediately start thanking him for taking out the trash who'd been running the local racket. And with the competition literally blown away, Eve gets right back to business, selling to the newly liberated crowd. Salma points out that a permanent banishment is just a verbal promise, so Hayato will probably be back. One of the grateful hunters then steps forward, saying he has a special request for our boy. He leads Salma and the crew away from the bustling market, deeper into the forest. This hunter explains that the entire base was actually built from scratch by explorers. It was originally founded by 10 high-rank volunteers who pooled their resources to run the place. But one by one, they all went missing, leaving only Hayato to seize absolute control. What a coincidence. Salma finally gets it. Hayato's admin privileges let him run the entire area like his personal piggy bank. This hunter then drops the strictly rumored bomb that Hayato might have just assassinated the other admins. Getting back to business, Salma asks what the big request is, and the guy just points ahead. They arrive at a massive glowing tree that is so huge they literally call it the God Tree. And here's the insane pitch. He wants Salma to use the God Tree itself to craft a brand new base. With a new headquarters, they could finally kick Hayato out for good and take back control. Shika is completely floored by the scale of the project, but Salma just confirms it is totally possible. He then flashes a wicked grin, making it clear a job this big requires an equally big paycheck. This hunter proudly reveals they have already pooled 5 million gold from all their comrades for the job. Holding up a glowing crafting cube, Salma accepts the deal with a look that is pure business. Then he casually mentions he will have it done by the end of the day, completely shocking everyone. This client starts freaking out, saying their old base took 10 people a whole month to build. But Salma just reveals a second cube, explaining the trick is to multitask and build all the parts at once. His new client's mind is completely blown. Multitasking with 2 cubes is a legendary crafting technique. This client absolutely loses his mind as Salma summons not 2, but a whole swarm of crafting cubes. With a determined look, our boy sends the cubes flying towards the massive God Tree to begin. He channels his power and the entire tree is engulfed in a brilliant light as the crafting starts. A massive skill activation. Grand craft erupts from the tree, reshaping the very forest itself. His clients are literally blown off their feet by the sheer scale of this magical construction project. In an instant, walkways and entire structures materialize out of thin air, forming the new base. And just like that, he announces the job is done, revealing a magnificent new headquarters to his stunned audience. Elsewhere, a defeated Hayato is still crawling in the dirt, muttering about how this is all impossible. Suddenly, a mysterious figure stands over him, coldly stating they witnessed his entire pathetic display. This newcomer reveals they are the one who assassinated the other admins, calling Hayato a complete waste of their efforts. With no patience for failure, the shadowy figure prepares to execute him for his incompetence. But then they stop, deciding there is a better use for him, which sounds way more ominous than just dying. Back to business, a sales report shows the insane profits from his recent creations, totaling millions of gold. Even the small fry sales to the Grateful Hunters added a nice little 60,000 to the pile. After factoring in the 5 million gold reward and material costs, his net profit is a staggering 6.19 million. Salma proudly announces his savings have hit 7 million, leaving only 93 million left to reach his goal. Walking through town, he reflects on how the Brahmastra sparked a bidding war that netted him a huge bonus. Eve, ever the accountant, notes his material costs are eating 40% of his revenue, a terrible profit margin. Shika defends the spending on rare materials, but Salma admits he'd love to gather his own to save cash. Just then, a message notification pops up on his interface, catching him completely by surprise. Shika absolutely loses it as Salma gets an official summons from the Self-Governance Committee. Eve, meanwhile, has no clue who these people are, prompting a quick history lesson. Turns out this whole labyrinth is a real-world version of an old MMO, but without any game masters. In the original game, GMS were basically the cops, handling disputes and banning cheaters. But this new reality has zero rules, so players had to form their own volunteer police force to survive. And that player-run group is the very same committee that just summoned Salma to their fancy headquarters. Eve immediately calls them out, questioning how effective they are if they let guys like Hayato run amok. Salma just explains they are stretched thin, only able to manage the most populated areas of the massive labyrinth. A guy with light blue hair finally enters, formally thanking Salma for showing up on such short notice. He then passes the buck, saying another person will handle the actual briefing, very official. In walks a woman named Ishtar, an initiator, who says she has heard rumors about our boy. She gets right to it, revealing she knows he was the legendary level 999 crafter from the original game. Not only that, but he was the only one to master every single crafting recipe ever implemented. Getting way too personal, she grabs his chin, noting he kept such a low profile hardly anyone knew his name. This, she concludes, is how he was able to forge the legendary Dark Aegis shield. She sits back with a smug look, admitting they went to a lot of trouble to investigate him thoroughly. Salma puts it all together. She is the one who bought his shield at the auction, but why summon him now? Ishtar cuts the small talk, saying she is not here to ask for a favor, she is here to make a demand. With a cold glare, she orders him to immediately stop selling counterfeit rare items. Our boy is just completely floored by the accusation, having absolutely no idea what she is talking about. Salma calmly asks why he should stop selling his totally legit gear. And Ishtar's reason is pure, uncut pettiness. It devalues her personal collection. Apparently his sales are a threat to every rare item she owns or ever asterisk might own. Salma is having none of it, calling out the sheer insanity of her selfish demand. So the blue-haired guy steps in, proposing they settle this with a formal duel tribunal. This format will be a public duel in the grand arena, and they can even hire champions. Our boy just stares them down, silently processing this absolutely wild escalation. He knows duels are a common way for explorers to settle their beef, but there is no way he is backing down. He needs that 100 million for Shika. Refusing the duel is pointless since he knows Ishtar will just sabotage him some other way. Then a new idea hits him, maybe accepting this duel is actually the smart play. Winning would give him the committee's official blessing and provide some insane free advertising. His only hang-up is Ishtar's insane confidence, which feels way too high for a normal player. Shika pipes up, explaining that Initiator is just a fancy name for a starter class, and Salma points out that is precisely what makes her so terrifying, a beginner with this much power. He deduces she is a whale, using real-world cash to hire powerful explorers as muscle. This means she is probably some rich kid who will hire an absolute monster for the duel. Ishtar smirks, asking for his answer while dropping a not-so-subtle threat about other methods. Salma agrees to the duel, but only if she promises to back off when he wins. Back outside, Eve questions his decision, knowing their opponent will be an absolute top-tier fighter. Eve bluntly tells Salma he has zero chance in a fight, and he is just like, yeah, no kidding. He even pulls up a stat comparison, showing his crafter build is basically a wet noodle next to a paladin. But he insists he would not have accepted the duel without a way to win. This is all for Shika, after all. Then he drops the bombshell, asking Eve to be his champion and fight in his place. She is honor-bound to accept his command, but is pretty sure he is wildly overestimating her combat skills. Her own analysis gives them a bleak 30% chance of victory against Ishtar's probable bodyguard. Salma is actually hyped the odds are that high, which earns him a death glare and a threatened punch from Eve. He just smiles, reminding them that pure stats are not everything, just like in the Venom Drake fight. After all, she only won that battle because of the custom-made equipment he crafted for her, and luckily for them, he has a whole library of recipes for endgame automaton gear. His casual mention that the gear is for pets leads to a very awkward visual and a very quick apology. Shika brings them back to reality, pointing out the real problem is sourcing all the rare materials. They have only got 3 days, so farming is impossible and buying everything would bankrupt them. This poor fairy's brain starts to melt as she spirals about costs and broken, unsellable equipment. Salma just pats her smoking head, calmly telling everyone he has already got a plan for that. His big idea is to scavenge parts from a deactivated boss monster called a Gardal unit. This massive, dormant robot is apparently their secret weapon and the key to victory. With a loud creak of metal, the high-stakes disassembly project officially gets underway. Our boy, now in full mechanic mode, proudly holds up a tiny gear he has just extracted. Everything is going just as planned, with Sheikah even helping to clean up their new workshop. Inside their new workshop, Eve explains the labyrinth's self-repair is why they keep having to break in, which is a bit of a pain since they have to reopen the hole every single visit. She then proudly presents a basket overflowing with scavenged parts. Phase 1 is complete. Salma is thrilled they have enough materials, but Eve reminds him this is all for Sheikah's sake. Looking at all the junk, Eve gets a little down, wishing her own weapon generation function was still online. That ability is apparently tied to her memory records, which are totally corrupted and inaccessible. This gives Salma a spark of an idea, recalling that high-level automata can create their own weapons. And as a former raid boss, Eve's exclusive gear was apparently on a whole other level of broken. He sets the thought aside for now, deciding there is nothing they can do about what is unusable. Instead, he calls Eve over to have a quick, serious chat about her past. Salma just wants to confirm she really has zero memories, and she says they are currently locked away. However, she reveals there are unidentified, frozen memories still dormant in her storage. She even suggests that thawing them might restore her powers, but Salma quickly shuts that down. He is thinking those are probably her evil boss memories, which is a pretty big red flag. Yeah, he is imagining her turning back into an enemy and decides it is best to not poke the bear. Eve snaps him out of his internal crisis, getting his attention with a sharp master. She gets right in his face, demanding to know if he can actually craft gear good enough to win. In the background, Sheikah is having a full-blown meltdown, crying about her humanity being at stake. Then she does a complete 180, telling Eve to chill out because Salma's got it covered. Our boy just flashes a confident grin, assuring them both to just leave everything to him. It is duel day and the grand arena is absolutely packed to the rafters for the main event. Ishtar smugly presents her champion, a hired gun named Gilbert the Battle Master. And opposing them is Salma, whose representative is, hilariously, announced as a pet monster. Sheikah is losing her mind over the crowd, but Salma's just relieved no one recognizes Eve's true form. In the center of the ring, the two champions stare each other down as the simple rules are laid out. This Gilbert guy is already monologuing, totally insulted that his opponent is a mere pet. Eve just calmly tells him to tone it down. It'll be way less embarrassing when she crushes him. From the sidelines, Salma pegs the guy's level at 500-600, a classic pay-to-win whale move. See, rich players can hire these monsters to explore the deep, profitable parts of the labyrinth, but Salma's not worried, believing the custom gear he made for Eve will close any power gap. With a massive gong, the duel is officially underway, and Gilbert wastes zero time, immediately unleashing some kind of powerful weapon skill. This attack moves in a blur, giving Eve just a split second to react. He screams shatter apart. As a massive shockwave erupts from his fist, a huge explosion rocks the arena, and even Ishtar seems surprised by her champion's opening move. Gilbert just scoffs, thinking he has already won with that single, overwhelming attack. But through the smoke, Eve stands completely unscathed behind a massive, familiar-looking shield. Ishtar's jaw just drops. That is the Dark Aegis, the very shield she bought from Salma. Then Eve activates the shield's special ability, unleashing a petrification wave. Gilbert's smug face instantly turns to pure panic as the purple energy rushes towards him. This shield's counter is a one-hit KO, and with no healers in the ring, petrification means an instant loss. But Gilbert just tanks the purple energy, activating some kind of glowing trinket to nullify the effect. He roars that he came prepared for debuffs, because of course the rich guy has a counter for everything. After gracefully dodging his next wild swing, Eve calmly announces it is her turn to go on the offensive. And then she reveals the custom gear Salma built, activating a hover unit and summoning a storm of energy darts. That new Swan Lake unit sends her rocketing across the arena with terrifying speed. For the first time, Gilbert actually looks concerned, raising his massive sword to block the incoming assault. In a flash of light, her blades meet his sword, unleashing a massive shockwave from the impact. Her custom-made weapons just tear right through his, shattering the massive blade into a million pieces. But when the dust settles, Eve realizes her opponent has mysteriously vanished from sight. He pulls the classic nothing personal kid teleport, appearing right behind her with glowing red eyes. Her combat sensors are already locked on, though, a green targeting reticle scanning from her eye. Without missing a beat, she spins to block his surprise attack, her blades locked against a new pair of swords. This time, however, his weapons hold, and it is Eve's arm blades that explode into fragments, horrifying Sheikah. Now completely defenseless, Eve can only stare as her arms spark, her main weapons totally destroyed. She is left standing in the ruined arena, totally disarmed and facing a fully equipped opponent. With peak sportsmanship, Gilbert suggests she surrender now before her gear is broken beyond repair. Surrender? Not a chance. Eve just gets into a new combat stance, raw energy gathering in her hands. Sheikah is having a total meltdown on the sidelines, but Salma just gives a confident smile, telling her it is all good. Eve's hands start glowing brighter as she apologizes for the cliché she is about to use. This is gonna be good. With a confident smirk, Salma watches as Eve declares the real battle is just beginning. She then activates her secret weapon, the gigantic Tyrannos Overload Gauntlets. Gilbert just scoffs at the new hardware, basically asking if this is her final form. Without waiting for an answer, he hurls his twin swords right at her face. But the new arms are on another level, effortlessly swatting the blades away like flies. Annoyed, he summons a massive, demonic-looking sword that is clearly compensating for something. He He charges forward, ready to test her new gear with his ridiculously oversized weapon. Eve just calmly braces for the attack, her own custom-built arms glowing with power. This two collide in a massive explosion of red and blue energy that shakes the arena. Their clash creates a blinding flash of light as raw power meets expert craftsmanship. To Gilbert's absolute horror, his ultimate sword begins to crack under the strain. In a desperate move, he ditches the broken blade and summons a giant glowing battle axe. Eve just catches the massive axe with one hand, stopping his all-out attack cold. He cannot believe her strength, realizing these gauntlets are Salma's greatest creation, and she is not about to let her master's work get shown up by some hired muscle. Her internal targeting system locks on, calculating the perfect counterattack. With a single, devastating punch, she completely shatters his new axe into a million pieces. This blow sends Gilbert reeling backwards, much to the delight of Salma and Sheikah. He looks down in disbelief as his own gauntlets start to spark and fall apart, equipment destruction. Turns out, Salma knew he'd have a debuff counter, so he built Eve's gear specifically to break his asterisk. Turns out, Salma's whole strategy was a hard counter, gear designed specifically to break other gear. But Eve's not even done, pulling out a new item and calling this a disappointing end to the duel. She holds up a creepy little doll of Gilbert, promising he is about to be a walking advertisement. With a flash of purple light, the doll shatters and Ishtar's face contorts in pure disbelief. This entire arena is stunned into silence as the outcome becomes clear. And just like that, Gilbert the Battle Master is now Gilbert the Garden statue, completely petrified. This announcer makes it official, declaring the winner is Salma's proxy, the mechanical doll Eve. Ishtar is absolutely fuming, forced to watch the weakest class publicly humiliate her. As officials rush over to the new lawn ornament, the crowd finally erupts. Salma just watches from the stands with a smug smile, his perfect plan coming together. With Sheikah celebrating on her shoulder, Eve's victory has just kicked off a new era for the labyrinth. A few days later, back at their workshop, business is absolutely booming. Our boy is swamped with high-level crafting requests. The duel was the best PR move ever. Sheikah is just thrilled that Salma is finally getting the recognition he deserves. Eve, ever the pragmatist, is cool with his fame as long as it boosts their sales. While serving tea, she informs Salma he will now be worked like a rented mule for Sheikah's sake. She even argues that since her arms got broken, it is only fair he works until 5 or 6 of his fall off, leaving Salma to point out the very obvious flaw in her otherwise flawless robot logic. But Sheikah cuts through the bickering, giving a heartfelt thank you to her new family. Her genuine gratitude leaves both Salma and Eve a little speechless for once. Sheikah offers Eve a reward, but the robot says duty is enough, completely baffling the little fairy. Just then, a new notification pops up on Salma's screen and Eve assumes it is another crafting request. Salma corrects her. It is the auction results for all the extra gear he mass-produced after the duel. He figured that flashy demonstration would drive up the prices, so he is eager to see the payoff. This bidding for 3 Dark Aegis shields has concluded, and the result leaves Salma completely stunned. And the winner of every single item is none other than their rival Ishtar. Talk about a sore loser. Salma just cracks up, realizing she is buying everything to keep the market value of her own shield from tanking. While Sheikah looks absolutely horrified by this level of petty, Eve is just serving a look of pure, unadulterated, I am not impressed. Our boy can only sigh, admitting that rich people really do operate on a whole different plane of existence. The sales numbers start rolling in and they are absolutely insane, millions of gold flooding their account. After all the fees and costs, they have made a huge chunk of change, but they are still a long way from their final goal. Meanwhile, in a dark alley, a wizard named Ignis is absolutely seething with rage. He sees that collector Ish won the auction, recognizing the work of the crafter who has been a thorn in his side. This guy is furious, blaming Salma for his guild falling apart and his own failures, a classic case of projection. Suddenly, a mysterious hooded man appears behind him, offering a solution to his little trouble. He specifically offers the power to oppose Salma, knowing exactly what this desperate wizard wants to hear. Ignis is shocked the stranger knows his name but quickly decides he is too desperate to care about the details. He demands the power immediately, but the hooded man warns him that accepting the offer comes with a price. His life. Before Ignis can even process the threat, the stranger stabs him right through the gut with a glowing blue blade. This wizard collapses, mortally wounded, as the hooded man's offer turns out to be a straight-up execution. Ignis stares up in terror from the ground, mortally wounded and asking his attacker what he is. This hooded man calls the fatal stab a gift, which is a new and frankly terrible customer service model. Meanwhile, Salma reviews their finances. They have made millions, but it is only a fraction of their goal. Eve is already questioning his next move, her face a perfect mask of robotic disapproval. And that grand plan turns out to be checking out a building in the middle of town. Salma leads the way inside, explaining this has been on his to-do list for a while now. A man in a suit greets them at the door, having been expecting the now famous crafter. It turns out our boy is here to tour a potential rental shop for his business venture. This agent explains that explorers can rent these facilities to run their own personal shops. He adds that the system is automated, so all an owner has to do is keep the items stocked. Of course, the rent is millions per month, which has Eve questioning the whole profit part of this plan. But Salma sees the long-term advantages and the agent is quick to agree with his potential client. Essentially, a shop lets you run your business and explore the labyrinth at the same time. Sheikah, however, senses that something is definitely off about this whole deal. She points out the obvious. A prime real estate location like this should not be completely vacant. Eve immediately calls the agent out for flinching, and the guy starts sweating absolute bullets. He tries to distract them with a desperate sales pitch about the building's 3 amazing floors. When pressed for the catch, though, he gets all shifty-eyed and nervous. Finally, he admits there are some groundless rumors that the place is haunted. Shika is absolutely terrified, while the agent insists it is just a rumor that he is also very troubled by. Shika lists off the silly rumors, wandering spirits and missing customers, typical rental property features. Salma just grins that he'd love to see a ghost because of course the horror buff is totally into this. He tries to rationalize it as a prank or a monster while Shika is having a complete meltdown in the background. But then our boy admits he is secretly hoping it is the real deal, much to Shika's absolute horror. To placate her, he agrees to craft some anti-ghost gear like holy water and warding talismans. And right on cue, a creepy blue glow peeks over the nearby counter. A full-blown, shadowy spirit materializes right in front of them, looking very much not like a rumor. Shika's face just breaks, going from scared to absolutely traumatized in a split second. She screams that the ghost is here, but Salma just looks over, completely puzzled. This guy deadpans that there is nothing there, which is not helping the situation at all. While Shika insists it is real, Salma just tells her to calm down, holding one of his crafting cubes. Eve calmly explains that many ghost-type monsters have the ability to turn invisible. She then points out that Shika, being a fairy, might be able to see things that they cannot. Salma immediately asks for the ghost's location, realizing her unique vision is their only lead. After a moment of pure, unadulterated panic, Shika finally manages to get a few words out. She nervously reports that the ghost is just standing by the counter, not doing much of anything. With a plan forming, Salma decides they will split up and sweep the building for any other nuisances. His strategy is simple: use talismans to reveal the invisible threats, then splash him with holy water. He even ropes the terrified agent into helping, guilt-tripping him about maintaining public order. But the agent admits they have tried exorcisms before and failed, which is why this prime real estate is so cheap. Shika is just frozen solid, completely at a loss for words as she stares at the spirit. Salma's theory is simple: if it is a ghost-type monster, the talisman should definitely get a reaction. So with a little encouragement, she bravely presents the anti-ghost paper to the spooky customer. Actually, presents is the wrong word. She shoves it right in its face with everything she has got. But the talisman does jack squat, confirming this thing is definitely not a standard monster. She desperately tries to rationalize it as a wizard's prank because that is way less terrifying. Meanwhile, the ghost just continues its thousand-yard stare, completely unimpressed by their exorcism attempt. Shika then notices it seems to be staring intently at something just behind the counter. Flying over to check it out, she finds a weird, dark puddle of energy on the floor. And a shadowy hand immediately shoots out and grabs her, because of course it does. This poor fairy is completely blindsided, caught in the grip of this shadowy appendage. It yanks her down into the floor, the useless talisman fluttering away as she is dragged under. With a final scream for Salma, she is completely swallowed by the darkness. On the other side, Salma and the agent just see the dropped talisman, totally oblivious to the abduction. Inside this dark dimension, Shika realizes the warding spell is still having zero effect. If it is not a monster and it is not a ghost, she has no idea what she is dealing with. Her eyes then widen in pure terror as she finally sees the true source of the haunting. It is a creepy, long-haired doll-like being holding her captive in this void. Back outside, the building just sits there, confirming there is definitely something wrong with this place. Salma finally puts it together, telling the others that Shika is not the type to make things up. Salma's still convinced this is a logic puzzle, explaining they will test the ghost theory first. He then gets weirdly emo, admitting that as a kid he hoped for ghosts but no one ever bothered to visit. Shrugging off his tragic backstory, he tells the agent they are moving on, turning to call for Shika. But when he looks over the counter, she is gone, with only the useless talisman left behind. Meanwhile, in the Shadow Realm, Shika is having a full-blown panic attack, realizing this is not a ghost. And she finally gets a good look at her kidnapper, a terrifying, cracked porcelain nightmare. This thing is apparently a Lampus, a spirit-type monster, holding her like a chew toy. It all clicks for her: the anti-ghost wards failed because they brought the wrong tool for the job. She knows its weakness is a strong blast of light from the outside, but she is trapped in here. All she can do is desperately pray that Salma figures out what has happened and saves her. Her mind flashes back, revealing a secret she's never told anyone. She was terrified of Salma at first. To her, he was just some random older boy whose parents were friends with hers, suddenly living in her house. She was too young to understand his parents had died, so she just saw an intruder. In her kid brain, it felt like her family and home were being stolen away by this stranger. Then she remembers a time she got lost, wandering alone and scared in a dark alley. Crying her eyes out, she was absolutely convinced she was about to die right there. Until a panting, worried-looking Salma burst into the alley with a flashlight, having searched for her. That was the moment everything changed, a memory she says she will never, ever forget. Because to her, Salma is not just family, he is something far more important than that. And that powerful feeling erupts from her as a brilliant golden light, completely shocking her captor. That raw emotion erupts as a blinding light, completely scorching the shadowy monster holding her. With her faith in Salma reignited, she is not scared anymore, she is ready for her rescue. This holy light literally tears the Lampus apart as she flies towards the exit, calling his name. She reaches for the light at the end of the tunnel, which is way less ominous this time. And she pops right out of Salma's glowing crafting cube, smacking him square in the face. After that terrifying ordeal, she just clings to him, completely safe and sound. This dark puddle on the floor evaporates, leaving Salma relieved and Sheikah incredibly flustered. But back in the shadow dimension, the furious Lampus vows that it is not done with them yet. Too bad for it, a massive golden knuckle duster slams right into its face from the real world. Salma unleashes a massive blast of light, flooding the dark dimension and the monster within. He is holding a freshly crafted holy weapon, calmly informing the spirit it picked the wrong victims. With a final cold command to just vanish, the Lampus is completely vaporized. This agent is absolutely floored, asking how Salma knew its true identity. Our boy explains his logic. The anti-ghost talisman failed, so a spirit monster like a Lampus was the next suspect. From there, he just had to craft a light attribute weapon to drag it out and finish the job. He is pretty pleased with his quick thinking, but Eve wonders why the Lampus targeted Sheikah at all. Salma's chilling theory is that it was simply because she saw asterisk something she should not have. Sheikah remembers the first passive ghost she saw, the one just staring from behind the counter. It all clicks. The Lampus only attacked when she got close to investigate that original spirit. This horrifying realization dawns on her. There were two entities and the other one is still here. With the Lampus gone, the original passive spirit finally materializes for everyone to see. It seems to whisper a thank you before dissolving into a peaceful blue light. Sheikah suddenly remembers a chilling local rumor about a vanished adventurer who was attacked by a ghost. She realizes this spirit was probably that explorer wanting someone to avenge them against the Lampus. Meanwhile, in a dark cathedral, someone is absolutely losing their mind that the Lampus was defeated. This spiky-haired guy on the floor cannot believe his brilliant haunting scheme actually failed. A hooded man looms over him, laughing that he got exactly what he deserved for such a dumb plan. He calls out the convoluted plot of using a spirit to attack Salma in a rental property. This boss asks why he did not just blast Salma directly, but the underling claims that would have been too obvious. His superior explains the real goal was not to kill Salma, but to make him suffer by targeting his friends. This smug, white-haired man in a hood clearly enjoys being the evil mastermind here, and his name is Diablo, the very same guy who stabbed Ignis at the start of this whole mess. His two lackeys are completely terrified that their boss made a surprise visit to review their performance. Diablo calls them out by name, Wizard Ignis and Predator Hayato, confirming the wizard somehow survived. He reminds them not to forget who gave them their power, warning them not to fail him again. While the now demoted Ignis grovels on the floor, Diablo tells him to back off, clearly unimpressed. A new challenger enters the ring, a winged man who declares it is his turn to take a crack at Salma. This is Predator Hayato, a harpy-like warrior who seems way too confident he will be the one to succeed. Cutting forward half a month, we are back at the now exorcised rental property. Salma's crafter's workshop is an absolute smash hit with a line out the door just as he planned. Salma's business model is pretty straightforward: craft items, sell them, and then reinvest in more materials. He poured almost all his savings into renovating the shop, calling it a necessary investment for the future. And thanks to the massive hype, the place is now a goldmine, putting him on track to hit his financial goals. But our boy is already stressing about the fine print, much to the silent judgment of his companions. With business booming, Salma decides it is time to start taking on special crafting requests again. Sheikah immediately pulls up a job from the Automaton Enthusiasts Club, which sounds incredibly specific. This request is for custom gear for automatons, and Eve seems surprisingly intrigued by the details. Salma points out the pay is not great, but Sheikah gets all flustered, admitting it is a personal favor. Turns out the club president is an old adventuring buddy she has lost touch with over the years. She then gives him the full-on puppy dog eyes, basically daring him to crush her reunion dreams. And of course he caves instantly, which sends Sheikah into a little victory dance right there. So the crew heads out to a cafe to meet this mysterious client from Sheikah's past. While Salma mutters about automaton fans being weirdos, Sheikah spots her friend arriving. Their client is a battle nun named Violet, who marches up with her squad and gives a formal salute. Violet immediately freaks out that Sheikah used her real name in public, so much for a low-key meeting. Sheikah's just confused since she already told her who she was, but Violet apparently thought it was a prank. Salma is just trying to process this bizarre reunion, asking for someone to please explain what is happening. This battle nuns introduce themselves as the club, and they are absolutely losing their minds over Eve. They start analyzing Eve's design like she is a priceless work of art, totally ignoring everyone else. Their grand plan is to get cool outfits for their own dolls, all while completely blanking the friend they came to see. Suddenly, the sky blurs as something plummets towards the city square at terrifying speed. Salma barely has time to look up before the ambush hits him from above, and it is Predator Hayato, the winged goon from before, snatching him right off the street. His talons dig in, grabbing our boy by the head with absolutely zero ceremony. Hayato then drags him across the pavement like a human plow just to be extra about it, leaving everyone in a cloud of dust, completely stunned by the high-speed abduction. This bird brain stands over him, gloating that the crafter is finally getting what he deserves, and Salma recognizes that voice, realizing this guy actually turned himself into a monster. Hayato confirms he ditched his humanity just for this rematch, which is a whole new level of petty. With a burst of power, he launches them both straight up into the sky. He carries Salma higher and higher over the city, prepping for the final blow. His brilliant plan is to just drop him, convinced the fall damage will be an instant kill. So with a smug "see ya," he lets Salma go, sending him plummeting towards the ground. For a split second, Hayato thinks he is won, but then he feels a little tug. Because Salma's not falling, he is just hanging onto Hayato's leg, much to the bird's annoyance. Our boy even promises to fall properly, just as soon as he is good and ready, of course. While dangling hundreds of feet in the air, he starts crafting with some magic paper and beast fur. A brand new scroll materializes with a grin as he tells Hayato they are going down together. Then he slaps the lightning spell right onto the monster, wrapping him in golden runes, which immediately erupts in a massive blast of holy-looking lightning, frying the predator midair. Hayato absolutely shrieks as the holy lightning tears through his monster form. Through the blinding light, Sauma grits his teeth, taking the backlash from his own spell. This spell's explosion sends them both plummeting towards the city like a pair of smoking meteors. With a pathetic threat about this being a greeting, Hayato flies off, leaving Sauma to his fate. Meanwhile, our boy calmly assesses his terminal velocity situation, admitting it is not ideal. He is fresh out of high-rank materials for a flight item, so he will just have to improvise. Still, anything's better than becoming a splattered tomato, so he pulls out his crafting cube. His fall suddenly halts with a jolt, as a powerful hand grabs him right out of the air. His savior is a massive knight in shining armor with a witch-hatted friend in tow. This knight, Oliver, is less than thrilled, demanding to know what the hell just happened. Sauma, ever the professional, suggests they table the discussion until he is not dangling for his life. Just then, a call comes through on his device, which he assumes is a worried Sheikah. But the voice on the other end is someone else entirely, an unexpected call from his past. In a fancy office, a man in a red cape muses about the chaos Sauma just caused on the surface. Turning from the window, he demands a full, detailed report on the incident. This is Rune Knight Altair, and he looks incredibly serious about his job. And he wants that explanation immediately, no excuses allowed. Down below, the crowd is buzzing with wild rumors about a man turning into a monster, while the battle nuns are just annoyed they lost their new automaton outfitter in the confusion. Violet is absolutely losing it over the city-wide panic, shoving her way through the chaos. A call from Sauma comes through, and Sheikah is just massively relieved to hear he is safe. But Eve quickly kills the mood, explaining he has been summoned by the government for questioning. She warns that things are about to get complicated right as an angry mob starts gathering nearby. Meanwhile, Sauma is greeted by the man in charge, Rune Knight Altair, for his official debriefing. Our boy stands there, looking completely unimpressed by the fancy office and formal summons. Altair, in his full Supreme Commander getup, declares he has some very important questions. Sauma's first order of business is not answering, but brutally roasting the guy's fashion sense. And Altair is just absolutely delighted that someone finally agrees his cape is terrible. He complains he was forced into the role, and Sauma basically tells him to grow a spine and quit. Getting serious, Altair cuts to the chase, asking what Sauma knows about the Birdman monster. His real concern is not the monster's identity, but confirming the rumor that humans are transforming. Sauma's suspicious of his intel, but Altair just brushes it off with a "my guy was nearby" excuse. This commander reveals that whispers of this monsterification have been circulating for a while now. He then cheekily points out that Sauma himself is the source of at least half those rumors. Our boy has a sudden flashback to him not so subtly asking strangers about secret monsters. Altair gets grim, warning that if this truth goes public, it'll cause unprecedented chaos. Right on cue, Violet and the battle nuns burst in, screaming about an emergency for Sheikah's brother. She sprints into the room, completely derailing this very important top-secret government meeting. Her urgent news is that all the material shops in town are in deep, deep trouble. This city's material shops are in total chaos, with everyone shouting for rare ingredients. A massive crowd is panic buying whatever they can afford, completely clearing out the shelves. Violet is absolutely stunned, realizing they are all trying to get materials for the Philosopher's Stone. Sauma confirms Altair's worst fear. The secret of monsterification is out, and so is the rumor of its cure. Eve, however, is completely baffled since Sauma is the only person who can actually craft the stone. So even if these people get the materials, they are basically just hoarding very expensive, useless rocks. Our boy explains it is just pure panic, a total breakdown of rational thought driven by fear. He describes the selfish mindset of mass hysteria: secure the cure now even if you do not need it yet. This puts him in a terrible spot because if the ingredients sell out, he cannot save Sheikah. At least one key elixir is absurdly expensive, so he is hoping that buys them a little time. But Eve crunches the numbers, warning that their current earning pace will not be fast enough to beat the hoarders. With the clock ticking, Sauma decides they need to head back to the shop and form a new plan. Back in the workshop, he and Eve prepare for a serious strategy session. He announces a major change of plans to his tiny, winged assistant. His new estimate gives them about 1 month before all the necessary materials are gone for good. Eve immediately questions the new goal, asking if it is even realistically possible to pull off. Sauma's plan is to start crafting and selling even more valuable items, and he already has a lead. He pulls up a display of the Phantom Labyrinth, explaining its 3-tiered structure. To increase their earnings, he says they have to go deeper than they have ever gone before. Then he points to their new target, the chaotic and dangerous lower layer. His pixie assistant, Misha, immediately freaks out, insisting the lower layer is a one-way ticket to oblivion. She begs him to just wait for a restock, but Sauma points out that could literally take years. Eve, ever the curious automaton, asks her lady sister Misha if it is really all that bad. Misha paints a lovely picture of fire drakes and venom drakes, basically a hellscape for level 700 gods. Sauma counters that the loot is insane, with materials to craft weapons that sell for millions. Then he casually drops that he has been there before with his old gaming crew, much to Misha's shock. He is confident his old hardcore buddies will help them out once they hear the situation. While it is a massive risk he has been avoiding, our boy admits they are officially out of better options. Eve pledges to protect her master, which finally gets a reluctant Misha to agree to the suicide mission. But Eve warns Salma she is on Misha's side, so he promises not to be reckless, if possible, of course. A quick financial update shows they are still 83 million short, really hammering home the desperation. A few days later, they stand before a massive gate as it slowly grinds open. Inside an elevator, Salma and Eve descend, with him grumbling about not having a VIP pass to the lower levels. They run into another party, led by a silver-haired knight who was just training some newbies down below. This knight asks Misha if she has ever explored the lower layer, and she confirms it is endgame stuff. With a completely deadpan expression, the guy just tells her to brace herself, which is not reassuring. Misha looks absolutely terrified by his ominous warning as the elevator continues its descent. This door is finally open to a completely alien landscape of floating islands and impossible scenery, and Misha is justifiably losing her mind, screaming about what fresh hell they have just walked into. This view reveals an endless abyss filled with floating landmasses, a world with a ceiling for a sky. This silver-haired knight gives a quick rundown of the labyrinth, noting the lower layer is basically where physics goes to die. Misha immediately questions the logistics, since without flight you're just trapped on a floating rock. Her face is a perfect portrait of someone who has made a terrible, terrible life choice, but the knight just spots a giant flying serpent, calling it their ride with way too much confidence. An archer in his party fires a glowing arrow straight up, aiming to snag them some transportation. It latches onto the beast because apparently monster grappling is the local public transit system. Then a witch on a broomstick zips up with a friend to complete this absolutely insane maneuver. They literally just grab onto the creature's feathers, turning a wild monster into a living taxi. Salma, completely unfazed, decides he will just make his own ride, thank you very much. And in seconds he crafts a custom featherboat, because why hitchhike when you can build? Before they part ways, the knight gives Salma one final, very ominous warning. He reveals a notorious player killer named Diablo has started lurking in these lower levels. Eve asks what kind of monster Diablo is, but Salma grimly explains he is not a monster. He is human. Specifically, he is a serial murderer who hunts other explorers just for the thrill of it. Salma recalls this psycho from the game, who has now upgraded his hobby to real-world murder. Even Misha knows the name, a veteran player famous for twisting every game system to his advantage. As they fly over the shadow of some massive creature, Eve agrees this is a seriously troublesome development. Salma just adds it to the pile: monsterification, material shortages, and now a serial killer on the loose. He also brings up Predator Hayato's transformation, hoping to find a cause for it all. But his train of thought is cut short as a massive water dragon erupts from the clouds right in their path. Their brand new featherboat barely lasts 5 minutes before a massive wyvern decides to take a bite. Salma immediately identifies the Grandy's wyvern, because of course the universe sends an endgame boss after them. As they spiral towards a volcanic island, Eve calmly asks her master if he can maybe stabilize their descent. He points out that is a temporary fix, since the monster will just attack again, so they are crash landing instead. Their custom ride makes a very ungraceful landing, plowing straight into the rocky terrain with a massive crash. And somehow they both look completely fine, like this was just part of the scenic tour. Misha, on the other hand, is having a full-blown panic attack about their near-death experience. But her relief is cut short by a massive pillar of light erupting from just over the ridge. This reveals a colossal, fiery golem just chilling there, because this place is an absolute nightmare. Salma immediately signals for silence, trying to keep them from getting noticed by the walking volcano. Eve follows his lead, both of them trying to play it cool while a literal titan stomps around nearby. Suddenly, a hand clamps down on his shoulder, and our boy just about jumps out of his skin. It is a barbarian named Ban, who apparently saw them fall and just knew it was an old friend. This guy gives Salma a hard time for ignoring his invites to the lower layer, then showing up on his own. Eve asks if this is one of his old gaming buddies, and Salma just gives a very non-committal answer. Ban explains that everything went to hell when a wyvern showed up, which seems to have stirred up the locals. He then asks about the Philosopher's Stone rumor, wondering if people are really panic buying those million-dollar ingredients. This guy reveals that every major explorer group has massive emergency funds saved up for exactly this kind of crisis. Hearing this, Salma realizes he needs to act fast and pulls out his trusty crafting cube. He instantly crafts a legendary sword, the Crimson Edge, and offers it to Ban as a charity purchase. Ban is absolutely floored by the instant craft, while Salma just smirks like he knew it all along. To test his new axe, the barbarian slams it into the ground, sending a massive shockwave through the rock. He is totally sold, saying he is an axe guy and would buy one in a heartbeat, but Salma's fresh out of materials. His friend points out the obvious problem: selling weapons here is tough since everyone's already rocking endgame gear. While Salma's craft is top tier, Ban insists he will need a flashy promo to actually get anyone's attention. Misha and Eve chime in with ideas for high-demand consumables, since even pros need potions and scrolls. Salma realizes they are right, he needs a spectacle, something that forces every explorer to stop and stare at his stock. So he announces his new, totally not suicidal plan. He's going to fight these monsters all by himself. Misha immediately freaks out, but Salma, accidentally calling her Sheikah, says this is the only way forward. His marketing strategy is a live combat demo, just like his old guild used to run to make a sales pitch. Ban is completely on board, saying a show-off like Salma is the perfect person to demonstrate the gear's true power. This big guy even offers to help farm materials so he does not feel useless, which Salma gratefully accepts. With the plan set, he slams his portable workshop into the ground to get things started. And with a killer grin, he declares his special lower layer pop-up shop is officially open for business. Meanwhile, two other explorers are scouting a high-level monster, a nasty-looking greater treant. They quickly realize it is already bloomed, which means it is ready to unleash a cocktail of status effects. This pair debates whether to risk it, retreat, or go find a high-level healer to babysit them through the fight. Right then, Salma comes sliding down the cliff face right past them, looking like he owns the place. They can only stare in disbelief as he parkours down the rock face, heading straight for the monster. A green aura flares around him as he prepares to kick off his live demo with a hell of an opening act. Salma's live demo kicks off with him slicing a massive tentacle clean in half. With his hands glowing, he grips the custom-made greatsword, ready for the killing blow. This blade itself radiates pure power as the wounded treant stares him down. But the monster is not going down easy, whipping its other massive vine for a counterattack. So our boy just unleashes a blinding flash of energy, bisecting the creature's entire head. This two onlookers are absolutely losing their minds because crafters are not supposed to do that. As the treant goes up in flames, they are still trying to process how he just one-shotted an endgame mob. They immediately run over, demanding to know how a support class just pulled off a main tank-level stunt. And Salma, with the smuggest grin imaginable, just says he used crafted items, what else? He immediately launches into his sales pitch, explaining the buff potions and status-blocking scarf he is wearing. Then he shows off the bracelets and anklets that gave him the physical reinforcement for the fight. Finally, he presents the star of the show, the very sword that just turned a monster into kindling. This explorers are completely sold, realizing his gear is way better than what they have got. A quick price check shows the sword alone is $1 million, with the accessories adding up fast. After adding in some top-grade potions, the total sale rings up to a cool 2 million gold. Salma waves goodbye to his very satisfied customers, his first pop-up sale a roaring success. This moment they're gone, though, he lets out a massive sigh of relief. Turns out, using all those buffs to supercharge his weak body puts a serious strain on him. He reflects that Ban was right, no endgame player would have bothered with a normal sales pitch. But a live combat demo, that just netted him 2 million in 5 minutes and he is just getting started. Misha and Eve watch from the sidelines, with Misha looking incredibly worried for her big bro Salma. Our boy then kicks off a sales montage, tanking a monster's attack to show off his custom shield's insane durability. That little stunt immediately nets him 1.9 million gold from some very impressed customers. For his next trick, he zips past a pack of werewolves to demonstrate his high-speed mobility gear. And just like that, another 3.1 million in sales from boots and stamina potions. The kid's a machine. Then he demos a mining pickaxe and whoops, accidentally awakens some ancient evil from below ground. Even that disaster turns a profit, selling the pickaxe and the unearthed relics for another 2.8 million. Finally, he finishes crafting a massive batch of high-tier scrolls, looking pretty pleased with the result. With Ban's help farming materials, their total sales have now rocketed past 10 million gold. Salma tells Eve and Misha he is heading out for one last big demo before they are done for the day. But Misha can see he is trembling, pushing his body way past its breaking point to pull this off. She is absolutely crushed with guilt, realizing he is putting himself through hell just for her sake. Eve gives her a reality check, explaining that for their master, saving Misha is not an option, it is a necessity. She then tells the distraught Pixie that apologizing is the last thing he needs to hear right now. A simple thank you is what will actually reach him, a realization that hits Misha hard. With a new resolve, they agree to support their hopeless master together because he clearly needs the help. Meanwhile, Salma's final target appears, a massive ice golem trudging through a raging blizzard. He comes flying in from above with a flaming warhammer ready for a spectacular takedown. This hammer smashes down on the golem's head, shattering its icy exterior with a fiery blast. Except he did not kill it, he tamed it and is now riding it like his own personal battle mech. With the golem successfully tamed, Salma declares the field test for his meteor flail complete now for a buyer. Except the golem immediately starts reassembling itself because of course the demo is not over yet. Salma cannot believe it is still moving, just as one of his buff items starts to fizzle out. Towering over him, the icy behemoth winds up a punch that could flatten a mountain. And at the absolute worst possible moment, he realizes all his stat-boosting buffs have worn off. Before he can react, the massive crystal fist comes hurtling straight for his face. At the last second, Eve dives in front of him, taking the full force of the punch herself. She immediately checks if her master is okay, saying it is a good thing they came to find him. Giving him a stern lecture about recklessly pushing his limits since Misha cannot do without him. Misha chimes in, ready to silence the golem, but a sinister red light flares up in the sky. Suddenly, a colossal beam of pure destructive energy, crackling with red lightning, descends from above. Slamming down with incredible force, it completely vaporizes the ice golem in a cataclysmic blast. This sheer force of the explosion sends the entire party flying, completely caught off guard. Leaving Misha to stare at the molten crater, admitting she seriously thought she was dead. They stare in disbelief as the entire snowfield has just evaporated and Salma spots something in the smoke. From the center of the crater, a massive obsidian black form begins to rise, crackling with dark energy. It is a freaking inferno elder dragon, a monstrous beast of pure shadow and flame, and the system confirms it. A system window helpfully suggests a level 999 party of 12, as Eve calmly asks her master for orders. Salma's order is pretty simple: run as fast as humanly possible because there is no way they are fighting that. Desperate for cover, the trio dives into the nearest cave, hoping to wait out the apocalypse dragon outside. Salma's freaking out, but the system calls this apocalyptic dragon a lucky rare spawn, thanks universe. Eve immediately asks why he did not just kill it for materials, because she has absolutely zero chill. But she knows her master is not about to let a perfectly good world-ending crisis go to waste. So he calls up his new customers, who are ready to hear whatever insane plan he has cooked up now. His pitch is so intense it is giving everyone, including himself, a serious case of the creeps. He then asks them to spread the word to every other high-level explorer in the area. This word being that an Inferno Elder Dragon has just spawned on the island, casually. His customers immediately get it, announcing a raid boss will create a feeding frenzy for the kill rights. Eve and Misha realize this means a massive demand for gear, bringing the customers right to them. With the advertising handled, Salma's team shifts focus to gathering materials and cranking out inventory. It is the classic gold rush play: do not dig for gold, sell the shovels to the desperate miners. And our boy is feeling pretty confident he is about to become the premier shovel seller of this apocalypse. Their new operation takes them to some overgrown ruins, hunting for a specific rare component. He is looking for a golden crystal skull, but the legendary crafting material is nowhere to be found. This thing is a straight-up jackpot, a single ingredient that is worth over 3 million gold. After a long search, he calls for a break, which is always the universe's cue for an ambush. At that moment, dozens of glowing feather-like swords materialize in the air right above them. These blades come raining down in a deadly barrage, slamming into the ground with explosive force. Through the settling dust, two mysterious figures emerge from where the attack originated. Salma is completely blindsided, wondering who the hell just tried to turn them into a shish kebab. This source of the attack is a birdman, laughing maniacally as his wings flare out. This winged guy, calling himself Predator, greets Salma like an old, hated rival. His weapon of choice is a glowing, razor-sharp feather that functions like a deadly arrow, and apparently Salma's dragon announcement doubled as a giant "I am right here" beacon for his enemies. Promising this is the last time they will meet, he fires another volley straight down at the team. A whole barrage of these deadly projectiles comes screaming down from the sky. Salma, looking more annoyed than scared, just calls the guy persistent while activating an item. This item in his hand is a whirlwind buckler, a nifty little gadget for just such an occasion, which promptly creates a massive vortex that just sucks in and deflects the entire attack, stunning Predator. His hooded partner then speaks up, noting Salma's resilience and claiming he is no longer the wizard Ignis. Before throwing off his hood to reveal he is not exactly human anymore. He is now a high-rank spirit monster named Ignis Fatus, looking like a rejected final boss. And this dude is holding a serious grudge, monologuing about the humiliation he suffered at their hands. Demanding they beg for a painless death, he is really leaning into the whole evil overlord shtick. His Birdman partner, however, completely undercuts the moment by telling him his new name is just plain weird. Ignis, not taking criticism well, immediately blasts his own partner for the feedback. He then boasts that this new power came from abandoning his humanity, a classic villain upgrade path. To prove his point, he starts casting a massive spirit summon spell with magic circles flaring to life. Taunting Salma, he asks if he can possibly handle the high-level elemental spirits he is about to unleash. And with that, he summons 4 powerful elementals representing the core forces of nature to just absolutely wreck shop. These 4 classic elementals appear at his command: Salamander, Sylphid, Undine, and Gnomes. But Salma's already got a counter, summoning 4 glowing cubes that look like pure data. These cubes then transform into 4 elemental shields, each one perfectly matching an incoming attacker. As the elemental attacks slam into them, the shields hold strong, completely nullifying the assault. These 4 spirits are completely stonewalled, their powerful attacks rendered useless by his crafted defenses. And Ignis is just loving this, gloating that Salma's ability to nullify all 4 elements is what makes revenge so sweet. Because 4 was not enough, he then summons 8 more magic circles for some additional elemental servants. This new batch of summons includes Aurora, Electra, Dryad, and Lampus, a whole new set of high-level problems. Misha instantly recognizes the ghost-like one from the ghost commotion incident, which is a very bad sign. Hearing this, Salma finally puts it all together: Ignis was behind that incident too. As the new spirits swarm in for the kill, Salma summons a wicked-looking segmented blade. He then calls Ignis out directly, confirming he was the one who sent those spirits after Shieka. Salma admits he is curious about their whole becoming a monster backstory, but that can wait. Predator cuts in, helpfully reminding everyone that he is just going to kill Salma first. Unfazed, Salma just activates Fatal Vortex, casually offering to hear their story if they survive this next part. This move is apparently so terrifying that Predator just straight up bails, screaming at his partner to wait up. Salma immediately delegates, telling Eve to go handle the bird guy while he focuses on the main villain. With a determined look, Eve's hand begins to glow with some serious power. Her arm unit activates, transforming into a massive clawed gauntlet, the Lightning Culverin. This gauntlet's targeting system immediately locks onto the fleeing Birdman target acquired. Eve unleashes a blinding flash of energy from her newly transformed gauntlet. Salma watches on as his loyal maid handles the cleanup crew. Her attack forms a halo of judgment in the sky before rocketing down on Predator. Ignis can only watch in horror as his partner is about to get absolutely deleted, and the Birdman himself looks like he's just realized he left the oven on. This resulting blast is so intense it looks like a miniature sun just went off. From the dust, a new voice wonders how the hell they are both still alive after that. Because Ignis and Predator are now just a couple of smoking heaps on the ground, completely neutralized. Salma turns to Misha, ready for the full villain backstory on how these two clowns got this way. But just as she is about to spill the tea, a sinister rift of dark energy tears open the air. Through the portal, a smug new challenger gloats about the one-sided slaughter he just witnessed. Salma's face drops. He knows exactly who this is, and it is not good news. This would be the infamous player killer Diablo making his grand, dramatic entrance. He strikes a pose, casually confirming his identity like he is a celebrity on a red carpet. Diablo even gives Salma some backhanded praise, acknowledging him as a fellow veteran. Our boy knows the score. This guy is a serial peeker who takes his work into the real world. This killer taunts him, surprised to find his target slumming it in a place like this. Misha tries to get a read on him, identifying his class as Grim Reaper, which sounds friendly. Her analysis immediately starts glitching out, unable to process his data. She confirms it is an advanced assassin class she cannot scan, and Salma's not surprised at all. Salma immediately puts the pieces together, demanding to know if Diablo sent those two clowns after them. Diablo gives the world's smuggest non-denial, claiming he just gave them power and they made their own choices. Apparently, he was just playing Puppet Master for fun, but now he has decided to get his hands dirty. Salma and Misha are not exactly thrilled to hear they have been this guy's afternoon entertainment. With a face that screams, "I need therapy," Diablo declares he wants to kill Salma personally. But our boy, ever the professional, has one last question before they get to the murdering part. He asks if Diablo was the one responsible for turning Ignis and Predator into those ridiculous monster forms. Summoning a scythe made of pure galaxy edge, Diablo just repeats that he gave them power. He then lays down the terms, beat him in a fight, and maybe he will grace them with some exposition. Salma's answer is pretty clear as Eve immediately powers up her arm cannon to blast him. This resulting beam is absolutely massive, tearing a huge chunk out of the floating ruins. Diablo, completely unfazed, casually identifies the attack as the lightning culverin. He even boasts about knowing its charge time, having easily dodged it like it was nothing. Then he parries Salma's whip sword, helpfully critiquing his form mid-battle. What a great guy. Salma is visibly annoyed, clearly not in the mood for a combat lesson from a serial killer. Deciding he has had enough fun, Diablo announces it is his turn, opening dozens of dark portals in the sky. He winds up a massive swing with that cosmic scythe of his, ready to end this. A whole barrage of crescent-shaped energy blades comes raining down from above. Misha looks on in absolute terror, realizing they are completely outgunned here, and the crescent execution slams down, a devastating pillar of pure destructive energy. With the world exploding around them, Salma throws up a staff of sanctuary barrier just in time. Misha breathes a sigh of relief, realizing they have been saved from total annihilation. Salma, however, is not relieved. He is absolutely livid. He parries Diablo's scythe, the impact sending sparks flying between them. This reason for the attack clicks, and he demands to know why the hell Diablo went after Shieka. Diablo just smirks, calling it standard tactics to gank the scout first. What a professional. This peeker then swings for a downed Eve, but Salma's there in a flash to intercept. Eve rolls out of the way, her arm unit deflecting the follow-up strike just barely. Changing tactics, Diablo pulls out a nasty-looking dark blade with that same punchable grin. He flings it with pinpoint accuracy, forcing Eve into a desperate acrobatic dodge. Our boy realizes the big attack was just a feint to hide the second, deadlier projectile. Salma notes they are at a stalemate, each able to counter the other's every move. From his perch, Diablo agrees this is fun, but decides it is time to break the tie with a new toy. Salma has no idea what that glowing dagger is, recognizing it is not an item from the game. In a bizarre move, Diablo just stabs a random crow with it, because why not? This poor bird plummets from the branch, probably wondering what it did to deserve this. As it falls, it starts mutating into a full-blown griffin. Okay, that is new. This griffin immediately dives at Salma, who greets it with a superpowered punch to the beak. Holding up a strange cube, he realizes that dagger is what turned Shieka into a monster. This culprit is revealed, a glowing blue dagger, clearly a one-of-a-kind problem. Diablo's little dagger trick summons a giant worm monster right out of the ground to keep Salma busy. Our boy barely dodges a tail swipe, clearly not expecting a giant worm to be on the agenda today. Salma grits his teeth, realizing this guy's strategy is just throw monsters at him until something sticks. And there it is, the glowing blue dagger, just sitting there looking all innocent after its latest act of chaos. Up in a tree, Diablo helpfully explains that since they are evenly matched, it all comes down to trump cards. He taunts Salma about not having any, just as Eve dives in for a surprise attack from behind. She lands a flying kick right at his head, which he just barely manages to block with his scythe. Misha panics from the sidelines, realizing Eve has gone rogue to fight the peeker all by herself. But Eve is having none of it, flatly refusing to retreat while keeping her cannon aimed and ready. She explains her loyalty is to the little sister, and if she wants Salma alive, then that is Eve's only mission. This dedication is apparently all the reason she needs to take on the Grim Reaper solo. Diablo, ever the drama queen, mockingly applauds her touching speech. What a guy. Done with the commentary, Eve just powers up her gauntlet, ready to shut him up for good. He brings his scythe down hard, but she meets the blow with her own powered-up arm unit. Salma and Misha can only watch in horror as their maid goes toe-to-toe with a serial killer. Eve reveals she totally saw that move coming, much to Diablo's surprise. He is completely stunned, sputtering that he should have disabled her power system with that strike. She confirms his ignorance, hinting that there is something major he does not know about her. Turns out she is an amnesiac raid boss, a being so powerful even her original master could not control her. And now she declares herself as Salma's and Shiaka's final trump card. Time to end this. Diablo's smug face finally cracks as Eve's power surge completely overwhelms his scythe. She screams out a forced overload, pushing her lightning culverin way past its safety limits. Her attack erupts in a geyser of pure energy, completely shattering his cosmic scythe. Misha panics, screaming for Eve, who is now just a smoking wreck on the ground, completely unresponsive. Salma rushes over, absolutely fuming at her for pulling such a reckless, self-destructive move, but Diablo's already there, holding that glowing blue dagger with a very bad idea on his face. He admits he is surprised to be pushed this far, standing there like a final boss in the mist. With a smirk, Diablo holds the monster-making dagger to his own throat, deciding it is time for a power-up.